are talking about the movie Patience of a Saint, also known as Inmate Zero, although neither of those titles, I would say, are particularly accurate to the actual film, but hey-ho. And this one is directed by Russell Owen, who also co-wrote this one, and stars Meg Alexandra, and is essentially a prison zombie movie. So the focus of this story is this particular inmate, and she is a kind of like an ex-military type who is in prison for what she claims is a stitch-up job. She says she's innocent, and obviously she has been sent to this kind of like, I think it's some type of black site, almost like a off-books prison. It's actually filmed in Shepton Mallet, which is not too far from where I live, so here in the UK. And the majority of the cast is English, but there's our kind of central character is America. So I'm not quite sure where it's going to take place, because they mentioned they have the death penalty, and obviously we don't have that here in the UK. So the vast majority of the cast are English, but I'm not quite sure where this is going to take place. Anyway, and they have been doing some type of medical trials on this, on these inmates, with the idea that they can go through the trial and not have the death penalty and get life imprisonment instead, yada yada. And it appears that they have created some type of very kind of violent zombie type infection that starts ripping through the kind of the populace of the prison, and then the guards and prisoners alike have to kind of fight for their lives to stay alive from the contagion. What will happen? You have to check out the movie yourself, so let's discuss. So this is taken very seriously. This is not a camp zombie movie. This one is taken kind of deadly seriously, which I actually, I kind of appreciate. It's, it's very dark. Because it's actually filmed in a real prison, you have an air of authenticity here, I would say. And it's particularly effective, I think, sometimes in making zombies somewhat scary. And this, I feel, is maybe its biggest trump card, is that these zombies, the way they are filmed, they use kind of speeding up of the film, just very kind of in small sections, to give the zombies somewhat of an unnatural kind of movement. It's also hinted at that there may well be some sort of supernatural force at work here. The weird light going off for kind of no reason. This bird that seemed kind of suicidal in the beginning of the film. So it's kind of hinted at that there is maybe some type of supernatural stuff, but the main culprit here being some type of weird experiments. The movie also doesn't kind of shy away from gore with some sort of particularly kind of gruesome death scenes, guts being cut out, heads getting chopped off, things like this. And the zombie virus itself will remind you more of things like the Rage virus from the 28 Days Later kind of series, and that type of thing. So it's a very fast-acting virus which seems to have the zombies run fast, etc. So it reminds you of 28 Days Later and its ilk, rather than your typical shufflers that you'll get on The Walking Dead and Night of the Living Dead and such like that. Well, the acting was all around pretty good, to be honest. I thought our main character seemed quite like a tough kind of like, look, you would imagine like a military personnel to be like, and she seemed, to be very somewhat honourable but kind of tough at the same sort of time. I really enjoyed the interplay she had with a particular guard who was somewhat kind of sympathetic towards her. I enjoy some of the kind of the supporting characters here, the doctor, for example, a couple of other kind of like sort of supporting characters who I thought were quite well realised. And it's all around, it's a fairly kind of well shot movie on a technical level. The special effects, I feel, are good. The lighting is very effective here. There's some pretty good set pieces in regards to, people getting dragged off into the kind of the darkness, and these sort of shots I feel are particularly well executed. Do I have anything negative to say about this movie? It does fall into the kind of cliches a little bit. So there are a few times here where just typical things happen. I don't think it will surprise anyone plot-wise. The plot will go pretty much as you kind of expect, with no real kind of twists or turns, no real characters being what you think they won't be from the start. The character themselves are very broad. They tend to have one kind of defining characteristics. I mean, it's not You don't get loads. It's a fairly big cast, to be fair, so I can kind of maybe forgive that one to a certain degree, because there's no one here who gets loads of screen time. Even our kind of central protagonist, to be fair, doesn't get as much screen time as a lot of other kind of movies where they have one sort of point of view character. I've got to say, I thought the second act dragged. The actual zombie outbreak happens relatively early, so we kind of get to the action in the first act of the movie. And obviously it concludes in the third act, as you'd probably expect. But I feel in the second act, it doesn't really know where to go plot-wise, and is just more of the same. So I feel, although this movie I think is well executed, it doesn't become super interesting, because it's just similar scenes playing kind of over and over and over. And it's done to a good standard. But I kind of just would have liked maybe a little bit more kind of going on plot-wise, a bit more maybe character development from maybe other characters. And there are a couple of minor characters here where I feel the acting is a little bit on the cheesy side. But I've got to say, overall, I actually thought this was a fairly well-produced and effective zombie movie. And like I said, the biggest thing for me was I feel this movie treats the zombies and makes them legitimately kind of scary. It's a little bit like when you had the vampires in the movie 30 Days of Night, and how those vampires seemed, you know, genuinely effectively kind of scary, and you'd think, oh God, what would you do in this situation? And that was the feeling they got from this film in regards to the zombies, because they felt horrible, vicious, uncontrollable. One other kind of minor nitpick, I suppose. There are a couple of visual effects here that were a little bit wonky, and I'm talking about the kind of muzzle flashes, maybe a little bit of CGI blood which look a bit fake, but again, you're talking probably 30 seconds of footage in the movie, so I can't knock it down too much of that. Overall, I would actually recommend this one if you were a zombie fan. I will give this one a 7 out of 10. I actually found it very effective and over in large, entertaining zombie film. 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.